Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of our FPL show. It's game week 27 now. Not too many game weeks left, Rod. As I just said, joined by Rod today. We're going to be talking through, some of the biggest fixtures coming up, how we do in FPL, and, all things football. How you doing, mate?
Yes, mate, I'm not too bad. Obviously, a lot has gone on football-wise, a lot has gone on politically-wise. It's been quite a hectic few days, and obviously Salah scoring 84 points on FPL this week it's an absolute treat.
Definitely was. Let's get straight into FPL. Well, I guess I'll kick it off, Rod. I had a really demoralising week, considering I did triple captain Mo Salah. I just feel kind of pissed off. I felt like a lot of my players let me down this week, Rod. I've had more ones than ever, I think. I mean, just, to miss out on the Livramento 12 points by 1 minute. I think it was Edouard, wasn't it, who came on in the last minute. In the game they're winning 4-1 was just bloody ridiculous. I got Cancelo 1 point, Bowen 1 point, Cornet 1 point, Ronaldo 1 point. Just a real shocker. But like you said, I did captain Mo Salah, triple captain him. So all in all, kind of saved my ass. Surprisingly, though, in our league, one of our mates actually did a free hit, and he was pretty close to my score, if like maybe 5 off. So yeah, a bit pissed off with myself, Rod. But how did you get on?
You know what, mate? Obviously, I've got a 3-digit score so far. I'm on 129 points. Obviously, we still got the Arsenal game. I've got Tierney. I'm not really expecting anything. Obviously, triple captain in Mo Salah, 84 points. But Son let me down yesterday. I was thinking against a Burnley side who have been struggling as of late, they'll do something, and I thought Spurs were quite poor. Obviously, Trent, he got the assist, got a clean sheet, but he's so highly owned that it doesn't really matter. Dennis kind of let me down yesterday. I thought maybe he'd be able to do something, but yeah, I looked at your team, and obviously Edouard missed the first game, and I was like, okay, he's going to play the second one, and he did for you, but in the last minute, which meant you didn't get those 12 Livramento points, which were very important points. But
You're missing out on the Livramento points as well, Rod.
I am. I had him on the bench. I didn't really expect him to play, to be completely honest. He's been kind of frozen out of the squad as of late because of injury. But I'm on a red arrow, which is ridiculous. I'm on 129 points currently, and I'm on a red arrow, and it's a bit of a weird one. But obviously, yeah, 129 points, my highest score I've ever had on FPL, and I've still got Tierney. So hopefully, getting to maybe 135. That would be good.
Yeah, clean sheet tonight. I wouldn't be surprised against Wolves, who are very, I'd say quite a team who's going to probably look to counter-attack Arsenal. Defensively very strong, but going forward, obviously, not the strongest side in the league. Probably actually one of the weakest teams going forward, just in terms of ability to score goals. I think if you look at the table here, goals for Wolves is 23, which is really low. There's not too many teams lower than that in the actual league. Burnley, Norwich, and that's it really. So it's kind of astounding how well they've done this season. It's all down to their defensive ability. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tierney did get at least 6 points tonight for you, Rod.
Mate, you know what? Against Brentford, I thought he basically had the clean sheet locked for like 90 minutes, and then I think in added time, Brentford managed to get a goal, and it was like, fuck's sake. Tierney is an option. I like it, and for me, he's good attacking fullback, and hopefully against the Wolves side tonight, you might be able to break the lines and maybe get a goal and assist. A clean sheet would be nice, but a lot of people do own Ramsdale, so the clean sheet might not be great for me.
Yeah, I saw you as well. I just brought up the Kings of Game Week 26, Rod, and I saw you on Twitter. Some guy was talking about free hitting, bringing in Ben Mee, and you was like, oh no, I think Roberts would be a better option. Turns out both of them were absolutely terrific options if you could have got them, tallying 17 and 21 points in total. I think the Game Week 26 is kind of overshadowed by Liverpool, who had a great chance with the 2 fixtures they had. We knew this coming in. It was just about who you picked. I don't think a lot of people would have had Van Dijk and Matip, but I think a lot of people would have probably had Salah and Mane, who absolutely bossed it this week, 28 and 26 points between them. The other players you're looking at is, I think Weghorst, who got 14 points. I think he was a good option going into it, but with the Tottenham game, I think it was a bit of a hard choice to decide whether to pick him or not, but ended up getting 14 points. Brilliant from him. Harry Kane, great performance against Manchester City. Obviously, shit the bed against Burnley. Just how it goes, really, isn't it? And Zaha with 17 points. An amazing week for him. Rod, I think if we look at some of his scores, I think starting off with Spurs is probably the place to go, because after such an amazing performance against Manchester City and they picked up the 3-2 victory away from home, just shitting the bed against Burnley and losing 1-0. What did you think about that?
Mate, it's like after that Man City performance where for me they looked electric, and that's exactly why I brought Son in, because he always does bits against Man City. And obviously got a 10-point haul, which is brilliant. And I was like, oh, mate, I've still got the Burnley game to go. And I watched it because it was 15 minutes before the Liverpool game. So I watched it and I thought, flipping it, Burnley actually looked quite good here. They had a few chances. They were pressing Tottenham. I was like, okay. And then obviously I switched over to the Liverpool game, but I kept an eye on the Spurs game, and I saw Burnley scored, and then eventually it was full time and Spurs had basically had almost no shots on target. And I was like, oh, this is a bit weird. And you see, it's just Spurs are such a weird team where brilliant against City and then poor against Burnley. And you've got Conte in the interview at the end, basically sounding like he wanted to be released, wanted to be fired. So, mate, Tottenham, really weird team. You just don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. Just quickly on Burnley, obviously they did get a 3-0 win on Saturday away against Brighton in a brilliant performance. I think Brighton weren't at their best, but still, nevertheless, Brighton aren't an easy team to play against in the Premier League this season. And in an interview afterwards, Sean Dyche was talking, and they asked him, what's changed for you then in this Burnley side? He goes, not too much really, just, he said about how he has actually been quite impressed with the team performances. They've just not been taking their chances. And now back-to-back wins, Rod. Really looking up for Dyche, and I know they've still got some difficult games to come, but I'm really intrigued to see how they do. I think Weghorst has been brilliant since he came in. I don't think he's always looked like the most threatening player, but some of his abilities, to hold off defenders, bring other players into the game, I thought he was superb. In terms of Spurs though, Rod, I did watch the City game, and saw the highlights of the Burnley game quickly this morning. I thought in the Burnley game, I thought it looked kind of even. I didn't think Spurs were creating like the greatest chances. And Burnley, they had a couple scrappy chances. I think Ben Mee scored the goal, but he could have had another one where the ball was all bouncing all over the place in the box. But I think it's my problem with Spurs, to be honest, Rod. I think they don't get up for certain games. I think, against City, I think they've actually got the best record in recent years against City out of any other team in the Premier League. And, you saw some amazing play from Spurs, the way they was able to, congest areas of the pitch to stop City, working, in that channel between, the full-backs and centre-backs. I thought they did tremendously defensively. And on the counter-attack, really electrifying. I thought you saw like a full range of what Harry Kane at his best is, terrific finisher, but someone who's got incredible passing ability on either foot. And for me, I think if you're a Spurs fan, you've got to be really disappointed, just because you, after getting that win against City, you put yourself back in a position where top four was really an option. But I think losing against Burnley, it's kind of, really demoralised them and took them off the tracks again. I think last week we were saying they're out of it because they had City coming up, and after they got that win, I was like, shit, you know what, they could be back in here. But I think it's over now.
Classic Spursy. It's Ben Mee. Yeah, we'll get on to game week 27, and I think I'll be free hitting. And I am, like you mentioned earlier, I'm stuck between Mee or Roberts. I like both options, but now Ben Mee scored, I'm kind of in my head he's not due to score again.
Yes, I would agree.
Like you look at Spurs, and okay, brilliant win against City, bit of momentum. You go into the game against Burnley. If you get a win, mate, you're back on track. But no, it's just Spurs behaviour where I'm looking at the stats. Burnley 4 shots on target to Spurs is 2. 5 off target for Burnley, 6 off target for Spurs. And it's like Spurs' calibre of strikers in Son and Kane, who ripped through Man City. You would have thought, okay, they can rip through Tarkowski and me and Peters. but they couldn't. And I think that's the beauty of the Premier League. For me, anyone can beat anyone. There's never an easy game in the Premier League. What might, like, Liverpool might have thought going against Norwich was an easy game. Mate, they were losing, and then obviously they managed to get the win. Like, nothing's easy, and Burnley, I said weeks ago they were out of it, but for me, they've got a couple games in hand, and they're not. They've got 2 games in hand on Leeds, and they're 3 points behind them. They're level on games with Everton, and they're 2 points behind them. They've got a game in hand on Newcastle, and they're 2 behind them. Burnley are definitely fighting for their lives.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it, but for me, with like Spurs, they're like that sort of lad on a night out where, you know, if there's a girl and she's absolute peng, you know, all of a sudden he just comes alive. But if there's an easy option, you know, just shits the bed, doesn't know what to do. I just think, I think they've absolutely ruined the chances around. I'd like to talk a bit about, you know, top 4 again with Arsenal now. I think Arsenal on a good run. They got the 2-1 win against Brentford. I wasn't overly impressed. There's something about Arsenal, Rod, where they're picking up results, but I'm not. I don't know. I think it's gone to the point where I've got to be like, look, you've got to rate them because they are doing shit, right? But something about them just doesn't seem right. Obviously, they do have a game tonight against Wolverhampton, which would definitely be a difficult game. And obviously, they did win the reverse fixture in a very tight one, 1-0 scrappy goal for Gabriel. How do you see Arsenal? Do you think, you know, because I think a lot of people are starting to say, you know, this top 4 race is now coming down to United and Arsenal. And I look at Arsenal's fixtures, man, I think they're pretty tough. I think, like, the next game against Watford away, I think it should be a give-me game for Arsenal. But the games afterwards are really tough, especially the next 3. Leicester at home, Liverpool at home, and then Villa away, Rod.
Yeah, shout out to the people who are listening who support Arsenal. I think where they might fall a bit short is, for me, I think United are going to be strong enough to finish top 4 because they have the wealth of experience. They've got winners in there. And although, yeah, they're not doing great at the moment, I think experience will eventually carry you all the way. Whereas Arsenal, very young squad, newly built, and without really an established striker. Obviously, Aubameyang going, Lacazette's a bit of a weird one. Nketiah's obviously youth. They're still like they're new players. Obviously, Ben White is joined at the back. Like, they're still forming the squad and getting to know their philosophy. And don't get me wrong, they're doing well. But I think when it comes down to nail biting results and grinding out results, like tonight, they're going to have to grind out a result. Wolves is not an easy game. I think I'd prefer a United compared to an Arsenal in that. Whereas obviously Arsenal on good form, but for me, I don't know if they've got enough to get the top 4. I won't be surprised though if it does come down to game week 36, 37, 38, where it comes down to the last couple of games. But for me, I don't know if they've fully got it in them. But I'm being impressed. That's why I rate that Arsenal fans gave Arteta time to embed his philosophies, tactics, because now they are reaping the results and the rewards of it, and they are playing some nice stuff. So it's interesting with Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's interesting, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I found it interesting what you said there. Like, I think, I don't know, I think there's this thing with Arsenal where they're not expected to finish top 4 based on quality of the team, maybe quality of Arteta. I think before the season started, I thought they'd finish somewhere between 10th and 8th, somewhere around there, which obviously is wrong. They're doing a lot better than that. But like you said, you know, United, I think there's this thing with United where everyone thinks they're in bad form. And as a United fan, I think they're in bad form as well. I don't think we're playing well, but we're picking up results. And Arsenal the same. I think they are playing decent, but at the end of the day, in the last 5 fixtures, United a better run. Obviously, United with the 2 draws, Arsenal with the 1 draw and 1 loss. And I find it kind of crazy how the narrative is like being pushed towards Arsenal being favourites, just because, yes, they've got 3 games in hand on United, but they've still got to play United, they've still got to play Liverpool. I think they've got some real tough games ahead, Rod. It's the away fixtures, I think, are really hard for them. Like, when I see them going away to Villa, I know they host Liverpool before that, but going away to Villa and Crystal Palace, I think it's difficult. I think the Southampton away is a hard game. And then the second to last game of the season away at Newcastle. I think that'll be a really hard game as well, depending on how the table looks at the time. Yeah, I find it hard to put them as my favourites at the moment. I feel like I'm being biased, but I don't know why, because I feel like United are really dog shit at the moment. I thought the performance against last night against Atletico Madrid just papered over the cracks. I thought it was a shocking performance. I'd say most players were under a 5 out of 10. Yeah, hardly anyone stood out. I thought Elanga was good when he came on, but really, we didn't really deserve anything out of that game. I don't think Atletico pushed us enough to really deserve the 3 points. It was a much better team, but it wasn't like they were having shots left, right and centre. Obviously, they hit the bar a couple of times, but, United have been playing dreadful, but they're picking up results, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that, Rod. What do you think, Rod? United...
Yeah.
Do you think the narrative's wrong, or...?
I didn't manage to catch the Atletico game last night, so it's hard for me to comment. But I imagine Atletico came out with a game plan, and it looked like it was going quite well for a little bit.
I just say that, basically, Atletico got ahead early. You saw Harry Maguire doing Harry Maguire things. He's marking someone, but they're able to. It was João Felix. He was able to get the run off him, and Maguire didn't get anywhere close to him. He scored an amazing header. Keeper couldn't really do much about it. After that, they had a few efforts here and there, but United had, I'd say, 60-odd% possession in the game. But especially in that first half, Rod, United were just passing it along the halfway line, backwards and sideways. It was really poor. Didn't create too many chances in the entire game. But that first half was disgusting.
It's like United, against Leeds, they showed some fight, and obviously they were 2-0 up. Leeds came back, and then United showed the fight and courage exactly to go on and win 4-2 against a rampant Leeds side. And obviously they beat Brighton before that. You've got to beat them, but it's like the performances are weird. I haven't seen a United performance that has been brilliant from start to finish. There's always that periods that you go through that you're poor, and you might be good for 10 minutes, and it's just really weird with United. And for me, I've said it, I was chatting to my friend who's a Brighton fan. I was like, I wouldn't want Potter to go there because I don't think he can manage the egos. And for me, in the United side, you've got a lot of egos.
Yeah, and the club isn't about bringing in the right players. It's bringing in basically A-list celebrity football players. That's how I say it, United. And just as you were saying,
it's more
about the Brighton and Leeds games. They paid over the cracks as well. United getting a 2-0 win against Brighton. I thought Brighton were actually the much better team. Obviously went down to 10 men as well, and luckily I thought it wasn't a great performance, but it was a win nevertheless. I think the Leeds game as well. Look how poor Leeds are. I mean, 6-0 against Liverpool, ridiculous. They don't really cover themselves in too much glory. And to be fair, we went head-to-head with them. We played a style of football which you can't play against Leeds, but we came out on the other end of it. And, I think it's papering over the cracks, Rod. It's not so much I'm worried about this season. I'm definitely worried about next season. I'd be surprised if we don't make any moves in the window, but I think we will. And if we don't make the right ones, Rod, I really fear United. Definitely don't see them finishing top 4 at this moment in time next season, but this season I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, it's so easy to say this with every club. For me, every club just needs to clear out of the bad eggs, and it's obviously easier said than done. Where I feel like United, they've got a lot of talent. I think you build the squad around Bruno Fernandes. I think you've got obviously Elanga coming through. You've got Sancho. You've got Varane. You've got some good players, and I think you've got a spine, but I think you've got a lot of deadwood, which I don't know. It's really complicated with United because they've got a world-class squad, but it just hasn't really worked.
Yeah, I saw a clip of Goldbridge on Twitter the other day. Shout out to Goldbridge, man. He was saying that he was worried about United in the future as well, because you look at the team and what's happening. It's like these bad players who you're talking about, like the Deadwood, they're here for the next 5 years. They're on big contracts. And you look at some of our best players, Paul Pogba, he's gone in the summer. Ronaldo probably gone in the summer, and we're building a team around the likes of Harry Maguire, which is so wrong. I really agreed with that point. Really worrying times, actually. I think I think, like I said before, it is papering over the cracks at the moment. We're getting wins, getting results, and it's all la-di-da. But I think this club's rotten to the core, man. And I don't know. Like next season, let's just say this, right? I think it's going to be different. I think Villa, you're going to be pushing up there anywhere between 8th and 4th for me, Villa. I think West Ham, they're going to be back again. I think Arsenal are going to continue to push on. Spurs, if they can keep Conte and do some work, they're going to push on. Even the likes of like a team like Everton, they've got money now. They're going to push on. Newcastle going to push on. It's getting ridiculously tight at the top. Where I think you've got outriders like City and Liverpool, who we'll come on to now in a second, and Chelsea are probably just too good, and they'll just invest too much to fall. I just didn't see that drive in our club where I do in other clubs who I think want to be it. They want to be Champions League quality and stuff like that. And I think that's what United, our standards have dropped. It's gone from, we need to win this league this season, or we believe we're going to win the league this season, to, oh man, I hope we get top 4. And it's just not, it's just ridiculous what the club has turned into. And I think I think next season it's going to be one of the tightest, like between 3rd and 10th, just because the amount of teams are willing and wanting to be a team who are regarded as one of the best in England and Europe in general. I think it's going to be crazy. I think Leicester as well, man, they've been unlucky this season. I thought the injuries they had at the back, that Wesley Fofana injury in pre-season was disgusting. I think they'll be better when they get some centre-backs, because they've been playing in Ndidi and Amati at centre-back, which is ridiculous. But yeah, that's just my opinion, Rod.
That's what I'm saying. When you look at the teams in the Premier League, and yeah, I agree with you what you said about Villa. I think Gerrard just needs time to embed everything. But when you look at the quality of like the teams that are there, like it's an exciting time. And even, to be honest, relegation's quite exciting, where you've got a lot of teams that could be drawn into it, and then Europe, you've got a lot of teams. And there's not really... Okay, probably the middle of the table, who the seasons are redundant for, are probably Brighton and Southampton respectively, who are 9th and 10th on 32 and 33 points. They're 10 points off Europe, and they're 10 points off relegation. So they're slap bang in the middle. The seasons are probably over. Probably try and finish as high as you can, but everything's up for grabs. Like Europe.
I think it's from 9th to 13th. So I think Villa, Leicester, Palace, Southampton, Brighton, even Arsenal potentially, man, at 8th. Their season's pretty much over now. Like, there's going to be a lot of dead fixtures coming up now, and I think you got to take that into consideration with FPL as well. A lot of teams, they haven't really got much to play for. They're out of all competitions, and that was my fear with United last night. I'm like, this. If we're out the Champions League, we're playing for nothing. Basically, we're playing to try and get into the Champions League again next season. But yeah, you're right, man. Like, I think the relegation battle's intriguing. I think you look at the teams who are coming up next season as well. I think Bournemouth and Fulham are already up, basically, and it's going to be a really interesting playoff race. I think QPR are in the mix, and I'd like to see Forest or QPR come up. But next season, I mean, Fulham aren't going to want to go down again. I think Bournemouth were a solid Premier League side while they were here. And whoever comes out is probably going to be an outrider, like a Leeds or a Brentford, who have done pretty well since coming up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for Spurs now, touching back on them, I think their best hopes are Europa League. But like, it's just so intriguing, because you look at the fixtures and you look at results, and a lot of the time you couldn't have predicted many of them. And the fixtures, you just don't know what's going to happen, because teams are in different positions. Some are going to be more motivated than others, and I think we saw that in the Villa-Watford game, where we didn't really look at the races, whereas you've got Watford fighting for their lives. Every point matters. Every goal matters. You've got Burnley fighting for their lives. Like Newcastle against West Ham. A few weeks ago, we say, West Ham win with ease. And, mate, Newcastle, they had their chances, and they managed to get a 1-1 result, and it's very good for them. And West Ham, they look like they've come off the boil a little bit as well. And that's where I worry about them going for the Champions League places. I don't think they have it in them. Yeah. So yeah, just a very intriguing Premier League this year, and it's probably one of the most competitive Premier Leagues we've seen in a while, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it is. I mean, probably should move on now. I feel like we've been talking about. I could talk about this forever. Like, I'd love to talk about Villa, but obviously, time-wise, we should probably move on to the top of the league. Rod, City and Liverpool. I think at one point we thought the title race was over a while ago, but I mean, looking at the recent form, Liverpool 5 wins in a row. City do have a loss just against Spurs and a draw against Southampton in there as well. And the gap's come down now to 3 points. Rod, goal difference. Liverpool are actually the better side by 4 goals. And they still got to play each other, Rod. I mean, I've got the fixtures up here. I just made a little note section. So I've got the fixtures up here, side by side, basically. And I wouldn't say any team's got an easier run than the other. If not, maybe Liverpool do have a bit of a harder run. But yeah, it kicks off anyway this week coming up, Rod. You got Leeds. Oh no, they just played Leeds. That's right. Right, so you got Everton for City this weekend, and
Liverpool.
But yeah,
This is the cup final, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah, I've just realigned it. Yeah, so Everton for City this weekend away. I think that's a very winnable game for them. Then we move to March the 5th and 6th. You've got West Ham for Liverpool at home, which I think is a very winnable game. And City have United at home, which I would say is a very winnable game. But in recent history, I feel like United have had some decent results at the Etihad. And actually, I think we've played better at the Etihad than we do at Old Trafford against them. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw United dig in, but I think both winnable games for both teams. I mean, you're going to be saying this about every game, to be fair. I think the 2 away games for Liverpool, Brighton and Arsenal, could be potentially tricky, whereas City have got Crystal Palace away, which isn't an easy game, but it's one of those where you see the scoreline, it's 5-1 City, and you're not surprised. They've got Brighton at home as well, which is a game they're probably going to breeze past. Then City have a blank, whilst Liverpool play against United at home on the 20th of March. I think this is the last game before the international break. I think you've got fancy Liverpool in that again, but then again, it is, the biggest rivalry in football, and you never know. And after that, Watford for Liverpool, Burnley for City. Then they play each other, Rod, on April the 9th. And I think if we get to April the 9th and the difference is still only 3 points either way, the season, it could be decided on this game.
That's where Liverpool's win against Leeds last night was so significant, putting 6 goals past them.
Goal difference.
Goal difference of
50
currently, and City on 46. That's 4 extra goals. So it's huge. And if it, like you said, if it does get to that game against each other, it's a huge game. That if they're on the exact if they're 3 points, if Liverpool are 3 points behind City come that game, that potentially defines the title race, I think, because it would be hard to see City choke the lead if they beat Liverpool in that game. And Liverpool and momentum are a scary team, so if they win that game, God knows what will happen. But that 6-0 win last night is huge, because that separates them from City on goal difference, and goal difference could be very important come the end of the year. But it's just such an exciting title race.
It's nuts, man.
Where a few weeks ago we just wrote them off with that City unstoppable. They're going to blitz it and it'll be over come April. But right now, Liverpool sitting 3 points behind City, still got to play each other. City have got some important games coming up.
It's crazy.
It's interesting.
Sorry, it's crazy after that as well, Rob, because each of the fixtures they have after that game, so both teams have, after the Liverpool City game, which is at the Etihad, both teams have an away game, a home game, an away game, a home game, away game, and it ends on a home game. I think, it's hard to decide. These fixtures are really harder. So Liverpool, Villa, City, Wolves, I think both comparable. I think that Wolves game for City is probably harder. They got Everton at home for Liverpool, which is they're probably pissed that, to be fair. Whereas City have Watford at home, which is, again, I think it could actually come down to goal difference, which is crazy. And in that case, I'd probably say City have the better chance, because after that, Liverpool go away to Newcastle, which is a hard game, whereas City go away to Leeds, where you could see them really battering them. Then Tottenham for Liverpool, which at home, I just don't see them smacking them. Maybe a 2-0 if... I didn't really see the swing in goals being more than 2. Then City have got Newcastle at home, which I think favourable matchup. Newcastle, hard game, but at home, side of City's calibre should be able to get that one done. Then both teams have an away game. Liverpool go to Southampton, and City go to West Ham, which is really hard. And at the end of the season, which I think is kind of nuts, is City have Villa at home, which I think is a winnable game for them. But Liverpool really have a hard game when Wolves come to Anfield. A bit of a nuts one, because I see a lot of goals in there for both sides in these fixtures coming up. I think it could actually come down to goal difference, which would be crazy.
That's the thing. I think the later on in the season, and if the title race is still up for grabs, the easier the fixtures will be for each team, because I think especially, did you say Villa plays City on the last day of the season, did you?
That's right, mate, and Liverpool have Wolves.
That will be an essentially pointless game for Villa if we're just chilling in the middle of the table, and that's where I think City will be able to roll us over. So I think the later it goes on, the more if teams' fate's already been decided, then it comes the easier games. I think the harder games are basically now until April 9th when they play each other, because every point, every goal is so crucial. And if you choke a lead and you end up drawing or losing, and your rivals have managed to win, then that puts added pressure onto you, and no one wants added pressure in games. There's enough pressure as it is. So it's an interesting time, and I'd be on the edge of my seat if I was a Liverpool or Man City fan.
The thing is, like, in these fixtures, I'm not sure if I could pick out, any more than 5 points being dropped. I think there's maybe a shock result for both teams when they pick up a loss, and maybe 2 draws in there. Like, I think Wolves is a hard game for both teams. I think it's probably harder for City going away to them on the 16th, where, they're still fighting for Europe. Definitely could be, hard. And for Liverpool, last day of the season, I think the fates will probably be sealed by then. But if not, it could be a do or die for Wolves to get into Europe. Other than that, though, Rod, I think there's a lot of winnable games. And it's just going to be who can keep their, momentum and who can keep their composure. Because it's not easy for either teams, but with how dominant they are, I'd be surprised if either of them drop more than 5 points at most.
That's the thing. I would have said the games in which they have dropped points, I'd say they would have beat Spurs. I don't feel like they would have struggled. I would have said before that they would have beat Southampton. But there's just games where teams are like, we've got nothing to lose here. We're expected to lose. We're the underdogs. We just try our hardest. And when you play City or Liverpool, you're always going to be the underdogs. So they go into the games, they have no cares but to just put in a good performance. And a lot of the time, well, not a lot of the time, some of the time it works. And we've seen that against City, where they are susceptible to dropping points. And for me, with Liverpool, I haven't really seen that this year. For me, Liverpool win each game convincingly and they play really well.
Yeah.
So, obviously, City, they've got Everton. Everton, they're a weird team. They've looked poor as of late. They haven't really had the new manager bounce. But like we said, I would not be surprised to see maybe Everton get a draw here.
Yeah.
Where
Lampard did the bounce.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I think, do you know what the craziest thing is now? I think at the end of the season, whoever wins, and I have a funny feeling that Liverpool are going to do it and it'll be 20 times for them. The craziest thing for me is I think potentially you'll look back on the January transfer window and you'll see that, Liverpool did strengthen by bringing in another option in a position where, there is a bit of a drop-off. Yeah, Diaz, man. When there's a bit of a drop-off for them, I feel like they got Jota, who I think is really good, but I really like him playing through the middle. I think when, they miss Mane or Salah, there's a big drop-off. I think that drop-off has definitely been decreased. I think Diaz looks really promising. I think he offers a lot for them. I think he's very dynamic. He's really good on the ball and he's not afraid to get a shot off. And I think for City, they might look back on it and, I think they might regret not bringing in a striker, Rod. I just got that feeling.
They should have gone all out for Kane. They ended up getting some sort of party boy from Aston Villa who's not worked out so far. And just touching on Diaz for Liverpool, he's really, really impressed me. He looks like he's fit straight into the system. It's like he's been playing with these players for years and he's an exciting option. And that's like Liverpool. I was talking to my friend earlier. I think with
Rod,
Klopp,
this show should be called "How Many Friends Does Rod Had?" Because you just go, yeah. I was talking to my friend who's a Brighton fan. I'm talking to my friend who's a Leeds fan. I was talking to my friend who's a Liverpool fan. But go on, Rod. Sorry.
So, and I was saying, for me, I've never really had to see Klopp deploy his plan B. Plan A always seems to work, and they just look really good. And Diaz have got obviously Firmino and Jota out. Diaz has fit straight in, and they dismantled Leeds with ease yesterday. And I've lost my train of thought. Basically, yeah, striking.
Who's the party boy from Aston Villa?
Jack Grealish, mate.
Oh, right. I forgot they signed him. I was like, who the fuck did they sign from Aston Villa? I was like, honestly.
Spent 100 million on him, where if they put the extra money in for Kane, they probably blitz the league. And I've seen reports today of Man City, they've outlined their plans and they've already met with Haaland and his representatives, and can't worry what will happen to the league if that happens.
Do you know what
this game over.
Yeah, the way I think about it is like, they didn't even have to spend. You don't have to spend that much on a striker. Like, for me, right, I don't actually rate him that highly. I think that's a bit unfair because I think it could be down to the system. But they don't even need like this world-class striker. They just need someone who is willing to, be in the areas to score goals. And I think Danny Ings would actually have been a good option for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, they didn't need to go out and sign this like luxurious fucking striker, someone who's overrated like Kane maybe. I just think they needed someone who is a striker. I think you see with Gabriel Jesus as a player, he's kind of like he reminds me of Rashford a bit. He just doesn't know what he is. But I just think like they could have done. I reckon Weghorst would have been good for them, Rod.
Mate, that's the amount of chances they put on the plate for a striker is just ridiculous. They create so much, and you've had to like the system they play. They always go, they don't need a striker. And to be fair, they probably don't need a striker, but a striker would fucking help. It would be. And you touching on Danny Ings, I don't think Danny Ings sells the Man City brand. I think that's why they go for someone like big name, someone who could sell the brand, and it's not like a luxurious signing.
I really disagree with that actually, Rod, because I think
but I don't think that's Man City's train of thought.
No, because I think that if you said Manchester United, I'd have been like 100%. His name recognition isn't good enough, right? He isn't. He's not a social media star. But City don't give a fuck, man. They sign players from like like Ferran Torres wasn't a big name. Obviously he's gone now, but like I really think that just anyone up there would have been good. And you were saying before, Rod, about you never seen Klopp go to a plan B, and it's kind of because he kind of lives and dies by the sword, I feel like. Whereas I think if Pep had a plan B option, like even if he's brought in a striker like a Danny Ings, who's maybe not that clinical, well, not like he is clinical, but he's not that big name, let's say, right? He's probably not going to demand to start every week, right? At least having an option off the bench would be nice, surely.
Yeah, but that's to be honest, how long do you think Pep's got left there at City? I think he sees this season out and the next one, and then he's gone.
I agree, because that will be 24, right? And I think that's the year Klopp leaves, and I think they'll probably leave together, holding hands. Yeah, how sad is it, like, for either manager? They must think, like, you know what, if I wasn't, there would be no competition. If one of them wasn't in the Prem while the other one was, they would have fucking blitzed it for like the last 4 years. And to be fair, the City, obviously they've had the upper hand, but I think for Klopp, he's got to feel a bit beaten up. I think I'd take the success that Liverpool have had with the Champions League and the way the club's been built rather than City. If I had an option, which sort of success would you rather at United? I think I would go with the Liverpool route of like how he's built the team and the style of play. But if Pep was never at City, I don't think they would have. I find it hard to believe that there's another manager in the world that probably who could have built a team who could have, consistently put up the points that City do.
Yeah, and obviously the Centurions, etc. Like it is crazy to think what Pep has done at that club.
Yeah.
But I struggle to put my dislikes to the side when because I really just quite dislike him as a club.
Yeah.
We see him bottle the league this year, and I was happy to see him bottle the Champions League last year, even though I had money on them.
Yeah, wow. Talking about money, Rod, I came through last week for you, giving you the Cal Brook between 6 and 10, which ended up paying up for you. But was
this weekend for our poker tournament, I'm sure you'll be paying up again, mate. So no problem.
I'll have my share of that on the weekend. Yes, but because this is going quite long now. But before we go, I just wanted to say, before we do the fixtures, I just wanted to say, it's like we always talk about it, how boring City are. And I stand by that they're boring as fuck to watch because I feel like they play so, the way they play almost lures the defence into making mistakes because they feel safe, and then all of a sudden they're not safe. That's how City win. But it doesn't mean that I don't think they're a brilliant team in the way they play. I think they've changed Premier League football in a certain way in terms of I don't think I've ever seen a team play with no striker in the Prem before, like City do, and be so consistently dominant. And hats off to them. It's just it will be nice when that bold fraud's gone and they go back to the level they were before. Winning one every couple of years. Well, more than that, every 4 years or so, hopefully. I mean, I'd love to see them get relegated one day, Rod. But I think they're powered by a state. They then going nowhere. The only people who can really rival them in the long term is going to be Newcastle, just because of the amount of money. I think you'll have outliers who win the league, like a Liverpool, Chelsea, but I think in the long term you'll probably see City and Newcastle up there as teams who are constantly investing, constantly bringing in the best that they can. And I hope it doesn't come to the stage where we become a La Liga, and I don't think it will be because of the amount of money invested in the Premier League to all teams, whereas La Liga has a product which is, basically just two teams who are getting the majority of the money, and that's why the league is on its knees right now.
Like you just said about the Newcastle thing, I think with
in
money,
the long term.
yeah, they're probably the only team, but you've got to spend it really wisely, and you've got to have the right infrastructure foundations in place. Because we've seen, obviously, I can talk about Villa. We've spent a lot of money in recent years. I mean, Everton have spent 500 million in recent years.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. That's what I was saying about United earlier, where I'm worried about us slipping down the league. Maybe being a team who's fighting for Europa League, because there are teams in this league now who have money, ambition, and there are other teams who are basically, it's the teams run by the American owners, other than Liverpool, I would say. But you look at Arsenal, obviously owners of the LA Rams, and United, the owners of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and it is becoming a franchise rather than a football club. Whereas we are not bothered about success, we're bothered about bringing in consistent revenue, and I think you're seeing that with both Arsenal and United living off their names rather than going out there and pushing the boundaries. And I think you're looking at teams like Villa, who have got money now, Everton, can't rule out Leicester because they've been consistent over the last few years, very good scouting network, bringing in players under the radar. I think you got to look at Tottenham as a team who are probably in the same sort of boat as United and Arsenal, but Newcastle, like I said, I think over time, I think within the next 5 years, there'll be a consistent threat at the top of the table.
Yeah. And I guess maybe we'll find out in the next few years what's going to happen.
What's going on? Right, let's do these fixtures, Rob, because we've been going for ages, but I've really enjoyed our talk so far today.
It's been... Obviously, I think we've shared our opinions on a lot of things and provided some good insight.
Not that much FPL talk. Maybe we'll do a little bit of FPL talk quickly, Rod. So you're free hitting this week.
I believe I'll be free hitting. Obviously, Liverpool blank.
Because of Liverpool.
Liverpool blank, Chelsea blank, Arsenal blank. And I think it's a good week to just kind of I've got a free hit. I've got two, so I'm not too sure when I'm going to use the next one. So I thought I'll go now. I'm going to target Burnley. I think Burnley got a bit of momentum. I'm going to lightly. This will be probably my team. I haven't completely planned it out yet, but it'll be Pope in goal. It'll be Roberts, Cancelo, and probably a Southampton defender. Not Livramento. I think obviously the right back who has been playing well has come back from COVID, so he could slot back in there. But it's likely to be probably. I'm leaning towards Luke Shaw. I'm not going to lie to you. In midfield, I'll have Mahrez, Fernandes, Son, and maybe De Bruyne. And then up, it'll be Kane, Weghorst, and Broja, I think. But De Bruyne could be Ward-Prowse. But that's basically the basis of my team. I'm going to have 3 Burnley players. I think 3 City, 2 Spurs, and then the rest will fit itself. But yeah, I just think it's a good week to free hit, and hopefully I just need a couple green arrows.
There is another week coming up, isn't it, where it's probably going to be necessary to free hit because there's that many teams not playing. Is that right?
Yeah, that's game week 30. But at the same time, I was thinking about it, and the ceiling for points that week is going to be quite low. So it's going to be very hard to kind of exceed the ceiling. So I'm going to try and get by game week 30 with just some transfers, and then probably use my next free hit game week 33, which is meant to be a double. But mate, God knows, with all these postponements, with injuries, etc., it's hard to kind of work out.
Arsenal, fucking hell. Yeah, basically I'm in the same sort of boat as you. I'm looking at that free hit as an option. I've only got one left, or as I've already used one. The thing I'm actually looking at, Rod, is probably making 3 transfers. I got 1 free transfer, so 2 will be 8-point hit. I'm looking at probably potentially taking out Ronaldo. Actually, you know what? Ronaldo stays this week. Jota's going to go. Dallow's probably going to go. And Edouard probably. And see what we can do. I think there's some players who I would be interested in. I got 1.9 million in the bank. If I can cheap out and get someone a bit cheap with Edouard's position, I might look to bring in a City player, but I'm really not sure at the moment. Obviously, I'm going to have to bench Salah and Trent. Yeah, there's a lot going on, Rod, so I'm not 100% sure. I'll probably make my final decision tonight. So that'll be interesting. Alright, Rod, obviously, we are still in game week 26. Arsenal Wolves tonight. We did a prediction on that on the last episode, so we'll move to Friday night's game, Southampton against Norwich, Rod. I think it's actually a really interesting game. I don't think Norwich are as awful as they kind of are portrayed to be. I think they definitely lack with quality up top, but I think other than that, defensively weak. But they're not as bad as they made out to be, basically. I'm actually going to go for a Norwich win here, away at Southampton. I think it'll be a tricky game, but I think they'll get over the line 1-0.
Oh, yeah, Friday night. I do like a bit of a Friday night game, not going to lie to you. Norwich, as of late, mate, they've been okay, but to be honest, so has Southampton. And I remember Southampton beat us a few months ago at home Friday night. So I'm going to go with a Southampton win here. I'm going to go 2-0.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, Norwich, man. I'm actually with it. Norwich. What is their run of form? Results. Norwich. I'm kind of interested in this now because I feel like they've been okay. Yeah, they lost 3-1 to Newcastle, to Liverpool, and 4-0 to City. But before that, they got the draw against Crystal Palace, the win against Watford, and the win against Everton. So yeah, I think against a team they're more evenly matched against, I think it'd be quite interesting, Rod. Leeds against Spurs, half-time kick-off, the early game. I think it's probably set up for, if it's rainy, mate, anything could happen. Because that Leeds pitch, man, was so... What the fuck happened with that?
I was like, I looked at it, I was like, that is horrific. Aesthetically, it looked like a really nice pitch, and then you just saw the players running and the ball bouncing. You know, what the fuck is going on here? It basically waterlogged, and
it was.
Yeah, I mean, it's raining and snowing. God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, man. You know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna take Leeds. My head's saying go with Spurs just because the attacking options. But like I said before, Spurs are the guys who you get the 10 out of 10 goals, but can't get the sixes. So I'll go with a Leeds 3-2 win.
Bold. Leeds at home. I mean, I said against United, I thought they'd get some in. Spurs need to bounce back. They're going to bounce back. 2-1 Spurs, mainly because I'm going to have Son and Kane. So 2-1 Spurs.
Okay. Brentford against Newcastle. Really favour Newcastle in this matchup. I think Brentford is a... I think I might have overstated how hard it is to go to Brentford and get a result. I don't think that... I think they've definitely... The flames die in there. Like, in terms of... They started pretty good. But since then, they've been kind of mediocre and they've just done enough to get by. I think that's probably stay up this season. Should be safe. But yeah, nothing too special going on there. I think with the hunger with Newcastle at the moment, definitely going to be the deciding... forgot the word. The deciding thing I'm going to go with. Newcastle to win this, Rod. 3-1.
I don't think you're far off here. Brentford have been very disappointing as of late. Newcastle on a bit of a roll. I mean, Trippier is still out, which is a big loss for them, but we saw against West Ham, they put up a good fight. And yeah, Newcastle, mate, they've done really well. Mainly credit to the signings and obviously the recruitment, etc.
Chris Wood, because Chris Wood is still shy.
He's pivotal in their success. Go Newcastle 2-1.
Fair enough. Let's talk about two teams that have been really underperforming of late, Rod. And I hope this game isn't on the telly on Saturday because I want to watch the United one. We're talking about Brighton and Aston Villa, Rod. I'll hand this one to you first.
Oh, mate. Obviously, we beat these with Gerrard's first game, but I'm really not looking forward to it. I haven't really been looking forward to Villa as of late, purely because of the performances. They've just been substandard. To be honest, mate, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Brighton. When Brighton have been quite poor, I mean, they got turned over by Burnley 3-0, but I'd watched the game and Burnley were very efficient in their goals, and Brighton had a lot of chances and couldn't convert. And that seems to be Brighton's problem, really. They can't really convert their chances. But I think they'll beat us. So I'm gonna go 2-1. 2-1 Brighton, yeah.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Like, how do you feel at the moment, like, in terms of watching Villa? Are you just hungry for a new season? Because it's almost like you're playing for fuck all now, out of all competitions, and just league is basically done for you, isn't it? It's not like you can really fall. So, what's your opinion on just, like, being a Villa fan at the moment?
I think we're safe. I think we'll be okay this year. So now it's an experimentary season. I think Gerrard's still got to embed his tactics. It takes time. We saw with Arsenal, it's a process. It's not going to happen straight away. Players still have to buy into the ideas, and we've got to be patient. So there are going to be games where we do well and get nothing. There are going to be games where we do average and get nothing. But he's got to just embed his tactics, philosophy, style of play. And I think we just got to be patient, like I've just said. But
yeah, I think it's just going to be interesting next season if you can bolster those positions, which are pretty weak in my opinion. I think I put it in the group chat. I think the thing which is maybe going under the radar for you is the striker position, which I think you could do with bolstering. But centre back and CDM need to be sorted by the start of next season, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think just the season's pretty redundant now. So as long as I want to see us win games, I want to see us play attractive football. I don't want to see us like just narrowly avoid relegation. So what we're currently, I think, looking at the table, where are we, 12th or so? Just quickly getting it up now. We are 13th. So if we could consolidate, say 11th, 12th, 13th, I'm happy with that. And obviously it's not progression on last year, but we've got a new manager, we've got new players, and it all takes time. I just hope we just put in some performances, see people do well, see a bit of fight, and I think I'm more than happy to give Gerrard time. I just hope he manages to get his tactics across to the team.
Yeah, so in this game, Brighton against Villa, you went 2-1 Brighton. I think both teams are, coming off pretty poor spells. So I think both teams would be looking to at least put a performance in. It is at home for Brighton, so I probably would favour them. I think 2-1 is probably a good result, but I think it could go either way. So yeah, I'll go 2-1 Brighton as well. Crystal Palace against Burnley. Man, I fancy Burnley again, man. They're on a bit of a roll. I know Palace got the 4-1 win the other night, and to be fair, I've been high on Palace all season from the very start. I think Danny was going on about me for being, because Danny is a clear version of a Vieira hater. But I praised him early on, and I stick with it. I think this game's going to be 2-2, Rod.
That's interesting, mate. And the same time as the United game, which we'll get onto, but
the game
we'll try and all sorts. And obviously, we've got the rugby to watch at the pub, etc. We've got a lot of sport, basically, mate.
Yeah, we're doing all things. We'll watch some crochet as well. But yeah, what do you think, Rod? Burnley against Palace?
This is probably one of the more boring games of the game week. I do think Palace are going to get a result here. I've been slagging them off recently, but their 4-1 performance yesterday, good solid performance. I'm going to go 2-1 here against Burnley.
Okay. United against Watford. Hopefully the game which will be televised illegally.
We do not support the illegal streams.
No, we're listening to the radio. Football. United against Watford, Rod. I'm going to go with United win. However, in the reverse picture, you might remember Watford absolutely battering us. I think this time I can see Watford scoring, but not that many. I think their main worries at the moment is defensively. So I think you'll see quite a defensive sort of performance from Watford. I think United just have a little bit too much quality. Like, I didn't think I'd be sticking with Ronaldo this long, but I'm going to just because of this game. And I mean, he's due a goal, to be fair. So I'm going to go 3-1 United.
Yeah, I remember watching the first leg where Watford did turn you over with ease, which was quite a weird game, that. And I think that was that Ollie's final game?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, okay, basically it was coming to an end then anyway. No, I think you're going to bounce back from them. Obviously, Atletico draw. I'm going to go United 2-0, and I'm going to have either Bruno or Sanchez or both in my team. So hopefully something from them.
Yeah, I might bring in Sancho actually. You said Sanchez, so I hope that you meant Sancho. Yeah. I think Sanchez is a good shout. I think he's been phenomenal lately. Like, really one of the shining lights in the United side. I think he's shown what, just a run of games can do for a player, and just to give him that bit of familiarity to the Premier League, I think. So I think that's a good shout. Everton against Manchester City. I'm going to go 4-1 Everton. 4-1 City. Just can't see him losing this, Rod.
Yeah, it's on TV, but obviously, I imagine they'll be showing the rugby.
Rugby time.
I'll be watching this game.
Yeah, I know. It's like when we was in the pub, we was all watching rugby and we was watching Brighton. But when Sanchez got sent off or something like that.
Exactly that, mate. Everton, they're just... If they don't win against City, and the teams around them do, then flipping out, if they're drawn into it and deep, like if Burnley get a win, Watford get a win, and Newcastle do, then flipping out. I do feel for Everton here. But I just can't see anything but a City comfortable 2-0 win, to be completely honest.
Okay. Sunday, we do have West Ham against Wolves. I think this is... it's just a game which I could see being 0-0. I think Wolves defensively too strong. Just don't think they offer enough going forward, so 0-0. Rod?
Yeah, hello? Yeah, you hear me?
Yeah. I said 0-0 between West Ham and Wolves.
Yeah, I was just looking and examining the fixture on paper, and West Ham as of late, Antonio's just not been cutting it, and he has been quite poor. And that's where I think they're going to struggle in terms of progressing. And Wolves defensively resolute, and I like a few of their players. Obviously, Pedro Neto's back. Jimenez is firing, doing well. Ruben Neves is good as ever. So I'm going to go for 1-1, but I don't think it's going to be a particularly thrilling game. I mean, like we saw Wolves against Leicester last weekend.
Yeah, I think Antonio start of the season was their shining light, but I think you could kind of say he's been a bit of a downfall for him. I'm not sure he's. I think he'd be a great option off the bench for any team, but I think he's just. I don't know if he's got the quality to be a leading man in a team which is pushing for those Champions League spots. I'd be interested if they could bring someone in the summer. I know they were looking at. I forgot his name. It's Darwin something. I think a Benfica striker. That would have been interesting because I think West Ham are a bit weak up top, Rod. But yeah, I think 0-0. You think 1-1. Last game of the game week, Burnley against Leicester on Tuesday. I'm going to go for a Burnley win again, Rod. I'm going to go. Well, I went for a draw last time, so they'll get a win here. So I'll go 2-1 Burnley.
Oh, Burnley, Leicester, Burnley at home. It's obviously what's the stadium called again?
Turf Moor.
That's it. Hard place, as Spurs have realised yesterday. I'm going to have Wout Weghorst in my team, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 win, and he's going to get at least one of them. Leicester did not impress me against Wolves, and they look on the rocks, and I think this is coming to the end of Brendan Rodgers' reign.
Yeah, so Leicester aren't playing on the weekend, so I was thinking about potentially a Maddison with double game week, but Burnley are with the double game week. I think Weghorst is a good shout. Probably Roberts as well in defence, or me. Yeah, I think I might go double Burnley, bring in Sancho, me, and what's his name? Weghorst. I think that's going to be what I'm going to do. But that's the end of the episode, Rod. Don't we know, pump it up. Sean Dyche is staying up. Thank you for watching, guys, if you have made it this far. Real long one, but I've really enjoyed talking to Rod today. Haven't spoken in a while, so it's been quite nice mutual conversations, and I think you brought up some really good points as well, Rod, and I can't wait to take your money on the weekend. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.